at lunch.
You are looking live.
Live at lunch. Live at lunch with Ott and Hanny on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
What the hell's going on out here?
Now, here's Jimmy Ott and Charles Hannegriff.
Yeah, for some reason or another, you sound a little taller on radio.
Is it live? Is it live? Is it live?
From Mike Anderson Seafood, Wesley at Nicholson. Welcome to the Tuesday edition of Live at Lunch, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Charles Hannegriff, Max Gotro, Jordan Kinchin's back in the studio. Randy McKay is at the Final Four. We'll be checking in with him a day early from our normal start day with him, which is on Wednesday. And Andy Isco from Las Vegas give us an idea of what it was like there at the sports books last night for what was a very exciting game. Not in any way not what we expected from these two teams that were very evenly matched on paper. They had the exact same record. They were both number one seeds. They had both had to have comeback wins to get where they were. And we expected the point spread was about a point and a half. About a half point, kids. About a half point. If you're on the number, you know it would have worked out for you for Houston to at least get a push. If you were on Florida, you would have won anyway. But by the half point, that has come back so many times, and again last night. But we had a really, really competitive. I'm going to say game that was played at a exceptionally high level, despite the fact that the offense was lacking. A lot of times when you see games that really get down defense, maybe to get in the mud a little bit is a term we sometimes use, but you won't enjoy them. I enjoyed the heck out of this game last night, even though it was not a game that was played in the 80s. I thought that the defensive intensity from the very beginning was exactly what we expected out of Houston. Houston was my pick. They didn't win, but they led this game for the better part of 39 minutes. But the game had some similarities to what Houston did with Duke on Saturday, which was that Duke led for most of the game. Duke had opportunities, as Houston did last night, to get out a little bit and open this thing up to a point where Florida would not be able to come back. Duke couldn't do it on Saturday. Houston could never quite put away Florida in the second half, even though they got out to a 12-point lead. The game started out really like Florida was not going to be able to make a basket. It seemed like it was 8 minutes into the game before Florida got anything on the board that wasn't a rim runner out of a turnover or a pick and roll, where Houston just kind of overcompensated. They had not really what you would call hit a shot until there were about 8 minutes gone in this thing, and they hit a couple of threes. Houston had an opportunity, I thought, near the end of the first half with about 3 minutes to go to put some distance between themselves and Florida. They had a 6-point lead at the under 4 timeout, and at that stage I said, just like that first 4-minute block of the second half, of the last 4-minute block of the first half against Duke, where the lead could have extended, but it wasn't. I thought a lot of the same thing here. Florida was a little bit shaken, I thought, at that point. And with a 6-point lead, I thought, wow, if Houston can expand this a little bit, get it to double digits maybe, they're going to be in great position to put this game away early in the second half. Well, just like Duke was unable to do it to Houston at the end of the first half, Houston was unable to do that to Florida. And Richard, who made enough shots in the first half to keep Florida in this thing, while Walter Clayton was blanketed and then some, made a 3-point shot, and that got them. I thought it got them a little bit settled. Sorry, made a 2-point shot, got them settled down, and then made a 3-point shot to make it a 3-point lead at the half. Houston, I loved the game plan. You go out there and you say, listen, who's been the most outstanding player in this tournament? It's been Walter Clayton. Who do we have to stop? Who do we have to at least contain? Who do we have to put the target on so that somebody else has got to beat us? Walter Clayton. Well, they did that. And Emmanuel Sharp, who I know is going to take that final possession to the grave with him, maybe the final minute and a half to the end of his life. I'll never forget it. But, man, look, in the first half, the job he did on Walter Clayton, really 32 minutes on Walter Clayton, and it's not like he got loose in the last 8 minutes. That's one of the best defensive performances I've ever seen, man-to-man on what he was able to do. But at the end, it wasn't enough. Clayton got a couple of free throws, then got a bucket, then got a couple of and ones, and we got us a ball game coming down the stretch. And I thought also that when you got down into the last 5 minutes of this game, that what Florida was running offensively, they were running with a lot more confidence than what Houston was running. It seemed like every Houston possession spent about 2/3 of it 8 feet, 6 feet outside the three-point line, trying to get something going. There was not a lot of penetration. They couldn't get to the goal. There wasn't a lot of post game at that point. It seemed like they were mostly working the ball outside of the three-point line and hoping to get somebody loose, maybe on the baseline to get a shot. But points in the paint were very hard to come by, and it really manifested itself in the last 3 possessions of the game. And I'm sure you've seen the stat by now. The last minute and a quarter, Houston doesn't even get a shot off. They don't get a ball to the rim. And it's not like Florida was, going to town offensively. They made some free throws, but that was all that it took. And the last possession, I love this kind of story where, we're going to revisit some things from the national championship game. We do first, second, no class today. But for a guy that has been the best offensive player in this tournament in Walter Clayton, who was stymied in the first 32. He didn't have a bucket until under 8 minutes to go in the game, didn't have a point in the first half. The play he makes is what? A defensive play, not an offensive play. He's made enough offensive plays to save them I don't know how many times. Certainly there were some games where if they don't have the shots he makes in the last 3 minutes, they don't win more than once this year. But it was a defensive play. Sharp was going to end up taking a long 3. It was a really haggard last possession for Houston, but it looked like Sharp was going to get up a 3 to win the game. And here comes Clayton. I don't want to say out of nowhere, but kind of out of nowhere to make him the shot's going to get blocked, or at the very least, kind of altered to where he's not going to get it to the rim, and he's got to give the ball up, and it's going to be a traveling call if he picks the ball back up. So he's counting at that point. There's not a lot of hope that Houston can recover from this possession, and Florida hangs on to win the game. Max, we both had Houston. We would have liked to have seen this play out the way it did for, 38 minutes, 38 and a half minutes. But Florida, again, the similarities to the game against Duke, just in reverse, were what I was thinking about in that second half, where they got up 12, the same way Duke. I think Duke was up 11. And it's like, you got a chance here. If you could just put together 3 more minutes of basketball and take this thing from 11 or 12 to 15, the game's going to be over. The hole's going to be too big. But neither team could do it, and Florida made just enough plays to win it. Yeah,
I was rooting for Houston, not just because we picked him, but kind of the heart was there too. I just kind of wanted Sampson to get his, but
I did.
The last possession. will be hard. They didn't actually get a shot off in the last 4 possessions. It
was 85 seconds, I think it was. It was a minute 25. Yeah,
minute 25. They had 4 possessions in that time frame, and that's pretty stunning in that sense. We heard from Kelvin Sampson after the game what they were trying to do there with that play. There were a couple of sort of rub screens that didn't really work very well, but they actually caught Clayton napping a little bit. I mean, he was late. He should have moved up with Sharp and didn't, and just a closing defense there, great effort. And Sharp had enough time to probably pump fake and get a shot off, but at that point he
definitely had enough time. If he had pump faked, he had enough time to let him.
He thought he had the space, and then Clayton just closed the gap quick enough to where
I thought he had the space. I didn't think he was going to get affected by the shot. When he gathered the ball and you said, okay, he's got to put it up here. There's not a lot of time to do anything else. I thought he was going to get a shot up. And
it goes back to Clayton. To me, his NBA stock, he's made so much money for himself because, I mean, he was a mid-second rounder coming into the tournament, maybe not drafted at all. And I mean, the way he shoots, obviously, is what's going to catch eyeballs. But a play like that, Florida all year was underrated defensively. I get their offense will get a lot of credit, but what they've done defensively, even in some higher-scoring games where they played against Kentucky and it was like a 100-95 type of final score, they're able to do enough with those defensive possessions. And, in this game, it proved so helpful when they were making, Florida made some mental errors. They had a couple technical fouls in this game.
They had 1 technical foul the whole year.
That's pretty crazy.
And they had 2 in this game. Now, the first one with the guys coming off the bench, listen, I don't know if somebody said something, but just you got the sunken court, okay? Right. You got the court is elevated, so the benches are sunken. You make that reaction, you kind of jump up, even if you come on the court by a foot or 2, okay? Even maybe even a little bit more than that, off of a big play, a big call in the game. I can live with that, okay? Now, if you come out of the sunken bench and you put a foot on the floor and you call a referee something you can't call referees, that's different. I thought that one was, unless they said something, I don't know that I would have called that.
Yeah, the spike ball was an automatic.
Spike ball is automatic. Yeah, once. I mean, it's in the rules. Okay, if he even I think it was Grant Hill made the point. If he catches the ball, he can slam it on the floor if he catches it. But you slam it, it goes over your head. That's automatic.
Sort of a delay of game, really.
Yeah. But the first one, I don't know. Unless they came off the bench and, like I said something really, really nasty, I'm not sure I'm calling that in the national championship game. But you're right. That's 2 technical fouls. It's twice as many as they had the whole season.
And honestly, coming into the game, we didn't discuss this yesterday, but Florida kind of struggled in these 48-hour turnarounds, right? They played UConn and very well could have lost that game. They should have lost to Texas Tech. Those were both on that second day, those second games of each weekend. And I thought Sampson would outcoach Todd Golden in this game. Todd Golden had not been to a Sweet 16 before. That was a big talking point, big trend is that it's hard to overcome that. But credit to Golden because I thought they did get a lot of great possessions, especially out of timeouts, which is what you hope for out of an offensive-minded head coach like he is, that they come out with great plays. And overall, I thought, in a way, he outcoached Sampson. Sure, defensively, that's Sampson's strong suit, and they did a great job of that, taking out Walter Clayton Jr., but down the stretch when they needed those plays drawn up, we saw Golden drew up better looks for them, and that's why they were able to come back. Their largest lead of the whole game was 2, which has ended up being the final deficit.
For 32 minutes, I thought that Sampson was superior on the bench. What had they done to that point? They had taken Clayton out of the game. He did not have a field goal at that point. They had weathered the storm Florida needs somebody besides Clayton to step up. Richard has 14 points. He has half of their points in the first half. So they had weathered that, okay? You don't expect that Richard's going to come back and score 14 more in the second half. If he does, God bless. So you got an 11-point lead at the under 12 right at the under 12 timeout of the second half. You have taken their best player out of the game. Their next best scorer has subsided. You've taken advantage of what was I thought a really, really rattled Alex Condon in the first half. He settled down in the second half, but in the first half, he was a turnover machine, looked really, really uncomfortable out there. You got an 11-point lead. You got 8 minutes to go to the national championship. 12 minutes to go to the national championship. At that point, I thought he had done fine. And then it just seemed like down the stretch they could not get an offensive set that would get them a good shot. The shots that they made, there was one on the baseline that was open, but, man, everything else was contested. You couldn't free up anybody. There was no penetration. There was nothing very much in the paint that they could get in those last 8 minutes, and it was just really, really tough.
Those 8 minutes were what we're used to seeing out of Houston offensively over the last few years. That's what
But usually it's enough. They can get enough shots and make them. But
sure, and this year they haven't been that weak offensively. They've made those improvements. They've been an efficient offense, but at least efficient enough. But yeah, it evaporated at the worst time. Whether you want to use the C word, did they choke? I don't know, but. It's kind of hard to explain how it happened, to be honest. It was just the same way you could look at Duke, and I sort of explain that away as if they weren't experienced in tight games like that. Houston's been there. They've been in some close games. They had great comebacks throughout the season, but it was just hard to explain how their offense just dried up when it really mattered there.
An 11-point lead, a 12-point lead was the biggest lead, but the 11-point lead, when they got to the under 12, it had actually evaporated. I had my numbers off a little bit there. I had my notes. It was the 14-minute mark they had. So you're 14 minutes away from a national championship with an 11-point lead, and you've taken what Florida wants to do offensively away from them for 26 minutes and. Not the last 14.
Last TV timeout in these Final Four games, the three. Houston led, I believe, by 3 in the final TV timeout here. They also trailed by 4 against Duke at the final TV timeout, came back to win that game. Florida did, you kind of think they pulled away from Auburn, but they only led by 1 in the last TV timeout. So a tremendous, tremendous Final Four. We'll look back very fondly on this one in San Antonio.
Florida Gators hired Todd Golden 3 years ago and won the national championship. I got a question. I'm going to ask it, and I'm going to give you my answer when we come back. How close is LSU? Okay, right now, this second, they couldn't see the Final Four with 8 pairs of binoculars, but 3 years ago, Florida was in this same position. How far away exactly are they? I got some numbers I want to run by you when we come back here at Mike Anderson's Wesley at Nicholson, right here in the Oyster Bar. Come on and get your char-grilled oysters are absolutely without peer here in Baton Rouge. Love the char-grilled oysters. Love the oysters on the half shell. Come by and check out Shane's new his new Bushwhacker machine, one of the new items as we get into the spring here. My wife and I came here last night for dinner, enjoyed a terrific seafood meal, as we always do, at Mike Anderson's. Staple here in Baton Rouge for many, many years. They're open until 2 o'clock and then reopen at 5 on Monday through Thursday, and then open all day Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So come by and see us. Come by and see Mike behind the bar. We're here right here in the front Oyster Bar at Mike Anderson's on a beautiful day here in the capital city. Live at lunch, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Don't forget, First Second No Class brought to you each and every Tuesday, rather, by our friends over at Supreme Rice. Make every meal supreme, whether it's their medium grain rice, the long grain rice, the medium brown grain rice, or the jasmine rice. That jasmine rice, what is it? It's a premium variety of rice developed by right here on campus at the LSU Rice and Research Center. Maybe that's why Schmitty chose LSU. Jasmine has the aroma of popcorn and nut-like flavor. It's an excellent choice for stir-fry, salad, stuffing, pilafs, and desserts. You can learn more about this premium American-grown rice at supremerice.com.
With Ott and Yanni from Mike Anderson Seafood on Lee Drive on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Jimmy out on vacation this week. Max Gotro here with us at Mike Anderson's. Andy Isco with us here in the next segment. Show's available on demand, LouisianaSports.net, 1045ESPN.com. New Handycast, Doug Thompson and Dan Canterbury up on YouTube about LSU baseball. So 3 years ago, March the 18th, 2022, Florida hired Todd Golden. 3 days later, LSU hired Matt McMahon. In the 3 years, Golden, 76-33. McMahon's 45-48. In conference play, in regular season, Golden, 34-20. McMahon's 14-40. I'm not breaking any new ground here. I just want to kind of set up what we're going after here. Golden made the NIT his first season, lost in the first round of the NCAA's second season, won the national championship in his third season. McMahon did not make the first postseason in his first, lost to North Texas in the NIT at home in his second, and did not make the postseason in his third. I'm not here to relitigate whether McMahon should be back for a fourth year or not. I think we've covered that ground. The record would suggest that many schools would have moved on. LSU chose to stick with him, and so how far away? Okay, and you just say, well, very far. Okay, never reaching. Just remember that there are schools that have come back from pretty far down to pretty far up really, really quickly. Florida's one. Does Florida have comparable resources to LSU? Well, the last 10 years, LSU's football program has been decidedly better than Florida's. The baseball programs have been pretty comparable. They each beat each other for the national title. So I would tell you that there's a bigger recruiting base in Florida. I'm not disputing that. But from a resources standpoint, from money, there's not a gigantic difference, okay? I don't know what their NIL budget's been the last couple of years. Maybe that's where the gigantic gulf is. But I'm talking about as university athletic departments, there is not 10 miles of difference between these two schools. How they allocate those resources,
yes,
maybe. But there's not a ton of difference. And Florida, to my knowledge, is the only school this century to win national championships in football, baseball, and basketball. You're within shouting distance I think they are, within shouting distance of these guys. So we know what Golden has done, and we know what McMahon has done. So this can be done. Florida's won national championships before, but they are in no way a basketball school. They are a football school. The league was the toughest it's ever been this year. Is it going to be tougher next year? No, I wouldn't think so, at least not on paper. It'll still be plenty tough. Preseason top 25, the SEC had 9 teams this year. Florida was number 21. They won the national championship. They started the season at number 21. This year, going into next year, ESPN's too early preseason top 25 has 7 teams. It is reasonable to expect the league to drop off a little bit, if only because this is the greatest season of any conference that they have ever had. Where's your recruiting? Well, your recruiting is 19th in the country, according to the composite rankings. That's 6th in the SEC. That's reasonable, except last year they were 14th. So do they have an evaluation problem? Do they have a developmental problem? Because last year's recruiting class in no way operated like the 14th best in the country. What about the transfer portal rankings? Right now, the On3 transfer portal rankings have LSU number 12, 3rd in the SEC. Mississippi State and Georgia are up closer to the top. Okay, again, that's a pretty reasonable thing to talk about. Have you developed on the bench? No, you haven't. So you've made staff changes. Do you have enough layers of player evaluations? No, you haven't. So you hired a general manager yesterday, a guy who not only knows your program but has extensive experience in the field. So, Max, with those things in place, a little bit weaker league, recruiting that is comparable that you didn't do anything with last year, and a transfer portal ranking that is better than what it was a year ago, what's reasonable, okay? I don't expect LSU to be cutting down the nets 3 years from now, but what's reasonable to expect from him last year? Because Florida went from a team that had fired their coach to a national championship in 3 years. I'll give you another one, okay? 2 years ago, Louisville, which is about as proud a basketball tradition as anybody, was a laughingstock. They had gone 5-35 over 2 seasons in conference play under Kenny Payne. They hired Pat Kelsey, who nobody had ever heard of. And I'm being a little bit facetious. Okay, basketball people knew who he was, but it's not like they went out and hired John Calipari away from Kentucky the way Arkansas did. They were 18-2 this year. Now, they lost in the first round of the tournament to Creighton, but they were 18-2 in the ACC this year. They were 27-8 overall. Louisville are they overflowing with resources more than LSU? They're not. They have much more basketball tradition
they have desire.
Than LSU. Desire. Ganas. Desire. Do you have it? Does LSU have it now? The moves over the last week suggest that they're at least paying attention now. What's realistic? You're a basketball guy. You're a McManiac. You're in the building every game.
Well, they're aware. I just don't know that they have desire. I mean, that's ultimately the difference right now between Florida and LSU. Looking back on McMahon and Golden, I mean, I think we can make a case now that Golden's the better coach. But when they were hired, they were what and what. If anything, McMahon had a longer track record. Golden had only been at San Francisco for 3 years. So in terms of resume, just on paper, McMahon was better. What's the biggest difference to me is not just the ability of the coach. It's how much does the program want it. And Florida, look, LSU cares way more than Florida about baseball. I think we can all agree there, even though Florida's won.
The fan base is, for sure.
But,
yes.
As a whole, they care more. And now, in the NIL era, desire is what's going to matter this, right? That's going to devote your resources. The schools themselves, the athletic departments themselves are very comparable, like you mentioned, LSU and Florida. But how they use those, do you care about basketball? I mean, if Notre Dame had won the national title in football this year, we were talking so much about how it would be a bad look for Brian Kelly, right? That the coach that replaced him would go on and actually win a championship. And this comp just doesn't really get a whole lot of talk around here, I guess, just because I don't think people really have the desire for LSU to be that great in men's basketball. I mean, to me, how can you not ignore the fact that these coaches were in the same cycle? They were in the same circles in terms of who was going to get what job. They were both mentioned for each job. And one of them's winning a national title last night, and one of them is yet to get there, yet to get to a tournament in 3 years.
What you're saying is what I've been saying, Jimmy's been saying for the better part of 2.5 years now, maybe even a little bit longer than that. I don't think that that's true anymore, that they no longer have the desire. I think they have been, if you want to use the word embarrassed enough, if there's enough empty seats over there, if there's enough lack of buzz about LSU basketball, if there's enough, hey, everybody in the league except 2 teams made the NCAA tournament and you were one of the 2 that was left out, if you had to turn down an NIT beat, I think you have their attention now. They are now spending more money. They have changed coaches on the bench. They have brought in a general manager for another layer, okay? If they hire one more person every year, for the next 20 years, they'll catch up with the women's basketball staff. They are now spending in the transfer portal enough money that they think it's a significant amount of money, that they have put enough money out there. They didn't before. We called them out on it 1,000,000 times. They are now putting enough money in the portal and into the program, staffing, okay, that you now have enough money to compete. My biggest concern now is not the desire. You've gotten their attention now. They're putting some resources into it. Is it enough? I don't know. But they are now finally paying attention. My question now is, can McMahon do anything with it? I go back to those recruiting rankings from last year. LSU was 14th. 14th, okay? Where would you put them? What was their final net ranking? It was in the 80s, wasn't it?
Somewhere in there.
All right, so you're the 14th ranked recruiting class. You've had 3 years to build a program, and you're in the 80s. You're in 15th place, okay? You have a transfer portal that is bringing some players in. We went through the resumes yesterday. They're very similar resumes pre-LSU to what some of the top stars in the Southeastern Conference were this year. We did this yesterday, right? Iona, Ohio, help me out here. Some of the schools some of the biggest stars in the league have come from.
North Dakota State,
North Dakota State, Northern Colorado. Okay, Clayton was at Iona. All right, these guys that they're bringing in have similar resumes at smaller schools to what some of these stars had. Can McMahon coach him up?
I mean,
can he motivate him? Can he develop them? I don't know. They've done a pretty poor job of developing the recruits that they have brought in that have some talent so far.
I would just say just because they came from a small school doesn't mean they have the same sort of, ranking or that they're perceived the same way. I mean, we went through it yesterday, but, even though they were coming from Morehead State and North Dakota State and Northern Colorado, John A. Broome, Grant Nelson, Dalton Connect, they were all top 20 in their recruiting classes. Or their portal classes, despite that they were coming from smaller schools. LSU did get one of them, and De'Don Thomas, that's a top 20 guy, so maybe you can develop him. He's coming from UNLV, but it's not like you're getting 4 of these guys either in this class. You're going to have to develop.
Well, you now have a transfer portal class. It's let's say on threes off by a little bit. Okay, they got them at 12. Let's say that they are 25.
But you're restarting. There's just
they restarted at Louisville.
They did.
Okay. Didn't they restart at Florida? Didn't we just go through that?
What was Louisville's recruit portal ranking last year?
It was in the top 10, I believe.
I think when you're redoing your whole team, it's got to be up there. Look,
you understand? I'm not trying to get to the Final Four next year. I'm trying to get to the doggone tournament next year.
Well, Louisville got there.
They did. Yeah, they lost. Okay?
And they lost.
Give me to the first round of the tournament and lose a game, and we'll talk.
I just think, when did the desire? You say the desire kicked in. I just don't know when.
They started spending some money. In the last few weeks, they have spent some money.
I think Ronald Dupree that's the sign to me that maybe they're starting to care. Maybe.
Are they spending money on the right things in the right? I don't know. But are they spending money finally? Yes, they are. Should they have done this a different way? Yeah. But this is where they're at. We'll take a break. Andy Isco joins us from Las Vegas when we return here live at Mike Anderson's Live at Lunch, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Lofton Staffing Services. We match our workers with the most sought-after employers in the Baton Rouge area. To Lofton, you're more than just another employee. We care about your interests, and we'll match you with a company that needs your skills. You can complete an application. You can schedule an interview. You can even browse jobs at lofton.jobs. Lofton also offers an unlimited $100 referral bonus. Lofton Staffing Services. We've been putting people to work since 1979. 924-0200 and lofton.jobs.
Heading out to Las Vegas, deep in the desert, lives one man. One man of many sports bets. The one and only Andy Isco.
Back here at Mike Anderson's Live at Lunch. Andy Isco joins us right now. Andy, good morning. How are you?
I'm doing fine. Sad to see the end of the college basketball season, but looking forward to all the spring football news and the beginning of the baseball season and, of course, NBA, NHL playoffs. And most importantly this week, the Masters that starts on Thursday.
Yeah, the golf tournament. We're looking forward to that. We're going to really bear down on that over the next couple of days. Well, I got to get your overall thoughts on Florida. A 2-point winner last night. The spread went off at 1.5, just about everywhere. So the Gators, who did not lead in this game for very long, about a minute or so, but they end up winning at the end by 2 over Houston.
Yeah, and I had futures on both, so I was happy either way. I did get an opportunity during the game to come back in, and although I didn't make a money line play, I did take advantage of the point spread. When Florida was down by 10, I got +6 for the game, as I expected them to make a bit of a run, as they've done in past games as well, especially when they were challenged by Texas Tech and to a certain extent by UConn as well. So that ended up being a nice little added play that came about, but it was a sloppy play. I mean, you take a look at the shooting percentages, both overall and especially from three-point, it was considerably lower than you might have expected from two teams that are very good offensively, and it wasn't as much from the great three-point defense because a lot of those were open, relatively uncontested shots. And I think Houston, more so than Florida, made some very poor decisions. I think when they had those 3 fouls called in about 9 seconds down at the Florida end of the court, I think that really affected them. They were stunned, I think, by all those fouls in those period of 9 seconds. and I think that that mindset allowed Florida to realize they had a wounded animal, and let's go in for the kill.
That was the one thing that really aggravated me about the game last night, and we do a segment called First Class, Second Class, No Class, and the next I'm going to kind of give it away. I hate it when games are officiated different ways in the first half and the second half. There were 4 fouls called in the first half. There were 26 called in the second half. You know,
they also miss an obvious goaltending call.
Yeah, I can make my peace with that. You know, that you miss one call here or there, even if it's an egregious call. That's just part of the human element of it. But when you so drastic, it's like an umpire changing his strike zone in the 4th inning. It drives me nuts. Okay, if they wanted to call a game tight, that's fine. If they wanted to call a game and let them play real physical, that's fine. But they let them play in the first half. I mean, they really did. In the second half, they end up getting, both teams really into some foul trouble, but especially Houston. So if they'd have been more consistent with their officiating, either way, I'd have been fine with it. I hate it, though, when there's such a drastic change. You're into the flow of the game. You decided how, like I said, with the umpires, you know what a strike is, okay? If it's 2 inches off the plate and it's a strike in the first inning. We didn't see that last night. There was a drastic change at halftime.
It almost leads me to believe, and I don't believe it, but conspiracy theorists could go with the fact of those 3 calls in 9 seconds on very questionable calls, because everybody's having contact in those situations. It almost brings into play those who say they saw the game getting out of hand. Houston was up by a margin. They wanted a competitive game to maintain the audience and please the advertisers. I hate to go there, but it has to come up when you see such a dramatic change in the way games are officiated, only because, and it happens to be a game that is no longer, it's still competitive, but not nearly as competitive when it's a 2-3 point game. And
you're not the only one asking that question. My thing is, this was a 3-point game at the half. It was for them to adjust on the fly, like that at the 6-minute mark of the second half. Houston was starting to kind of pull away a little bit. They had gotten a lead to 12. So you're going to officiate the game. I said first half, second half. It's really almost like 26 minutes to 14 minutes. I can't tell you that the numbers are what they are, okay? We just gave them out. But you would really hate to think that the 3 officials said, hey, you know what, we got to start officiating this game closer now because the game is getting out of hand. I would hate to think that, but the numbers are what they are. We saw the game.
Well, the numbers and the eye test.
Yeah, the eye test through this whole thing. When Houston had their opportunities in the last, this was one of the more surprising things, Andy. They don't even get a shot up in the last 85 seconds of the game.
Florida did to Houston in the last 3-4 minutes what Houston did to Duke in the last 3 or 4 minutes of their game. That totally swamped them defensively, and the offense had no answers.
Now, that we've had a chance to digest this whole thing, one of the themes of the tournament has been that Cinderella is dead. And we love those upsets in the first round, first couple of rounds of the tournament. But now that you've had a chance to see the whole thing, with the better teams advancing, and not just at the end, but in the first couple of rounds, didn't we see some really good? I mean, maybe we didn't get the buzzer beaters that we get in a lot of tournaments, but
we had the one, I think, with Maryland, Colorado State. That was about it that I can recall.
Yeah, we didn't have a lot of that, but we had some really, really close competitive games, entertaining games in the Final Four, in the Elite Eight. So is this all that bad a thing that maybe we didn't have a lot of upsets this year? Because we had some pretty good basketball.
It depends on your point of view. Do you like seeing the blue bloods of basketball, the best teams always there? Do you like to see an occasional or more than occasional upsets? And from a betting standpoint, especially for the great majority of us who like to bet underdogs, you do like to see some underdog outright upsets because it gives you opportunities in the following game. So I think a mixture is better than just either all underdogs or all favorites. I think, and it's from not just from a betting standpoint, but from an aesthetic standpoint, a visual standpoint. I like to see more opportunities. I mean, things like Seton Hall went on that run, or I'm sorry, not Seton Hall, St. Peter's or Florida Atlantic. It's nice to have it every few years and have one or two sprinkled in each year. But as you're talking about the quality of the basketball, yeah, this was very high quality once you got into the Sweet 16 and Elite 8. I enjoyed it.
Andy, next week when we talk to you, it'll be we'll be on the doorstep of the NBA playoffs. But so we'll put that off a week before we let you go. You gotta pick on the Masters. One or two, three guys, one guy that you like.
There are three guys that, and I don't remember the odds because it's been a while since I played them. I played Will Zalatoris, who's had a great record in the three. I think it's three appearances. I think it's the three top tens in his three appearances. Colin Maracaro, I've always liked his game overall. He's had success at Augusta. And then another guy who's been very close the last few years and had a nice game, not long off the tee, but the rest of his game is very good, is Russell Henley.
Russell Henley. Okay.
Yeah.
My golf guy's over here nodding his head in approval. So if you got Max one over, you're doing something pretty good. Vegas Andy on Twitter. Andy, we always appreciate the time. Enjoy the tournament, and we will talk to you next week. Like I said, we'll be on the door of the NBA playoffs at that point.
Look forward to it, guys. Enjoy the Masters especially. Take care.
Andy Isco with us from Las Vegas. We're brought to you by Louisiana Health and Injury Centers, helping you deal with pain. Dr. Michael Goff and his staff done a terrific job for our family over the years. So if you wake up and all of a sudden something hurts that wasn't hurting the day before, or you've had an old injury from an accident or a sports injury that's flaring up on you, let them do for you what they've done for us, which is ease that level of pain and suffering, get an adjustment, get into a stretching program, get into a dry needle or an electric nerve stimulation, cryo or ultrasound therapy, whatever your pains, your back, your neck, your shoulders, they can get you into a program that is targeting those problem areas and get you to feeling better. Airline Highway, Plank Road, Jefferson Highway near Drusilla, Dr. Michael Goff, Louisiana Health and Injury Centers. Back to wrap up hour number one here, live at lunch from Mike Anderson's 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
United Community Bank, the local way to bank big with locations from Baton Rouge to Golden Meadow. We've been serving the people of Southern Louisiana for over 50 years, including their newest branch at Burbank and Bluebonnet. Our great team at United Community Bank, Heath Meir, Nicole Glover, Prentice Wilkes, Hunter Creed, David Campbell, and David Henry. You know, running a business can be difficult enough without the right relationship with your bank. With United Community Bank's local business bankers, you're not just a number, you're a partner. United Community Bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender.
Live at lunch with Ott and Yanni from Mike Anderson Seafood on Lee Drive on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Yesterday, LSU's women's basketball team got a big commitment from what was a former five-star player in Kate Koval from Notre Dame. Now the top player from Notre Dame has made a decision on where she's going to school. Olivia Miles, she made news last week by saying, no WNBA draft. I'm going to put myself in the transfer portal. Not just stay at Notre Dame, but stay in the transfer portal. She's going to TCU. Was all of a sudden decided that they want to be good at women's basketball, I guess. The Haley Van Lith transfer last year really kind of was shot in the arm for that program. And now they get Olivia Miles, who would have been, by most accounts, the number 2 pick behind Paige Beckers in the WNBA draft. She decided to stay in school, and now she is headed to TCU. That was on the heels of the longest run in TCU history. They got it to the Elite Eight this season. Come back, first class, second class, no class, from Mike Anderson's hour number 2, live at lunch, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Live at lunch, first class.
I want a seat in first class where I was booked and ticketed over a month ago.
Second class.
No man should be subjected to the indignity of being labeled or treated like a second-class citizen.
And no class.
Life had become like school on Sunday. No class. I'll tell you what then. Why don't you call me sometime when you have no class?
First class, second class, and no class. Brought to you by Supreme Rice. Buy local with Louisiana-based Supreme Rice since 1936.
And welcome you back here at Mike Anderson Seafood. We're right here in the Oyster Bar in the front of the restaurant. Come by and see us here for lunch today or any day. They're open until 2 o'clock on weekdays until Monday through Thursday. All day on, of course, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Get your your raw oysters, your char-grilled oysters. We were in here last night, got some fried shrimp, some of the best salads. We enjoy the big salads, Elaine, here at Mike Anderson's. Terrific lunch menu. Good place to watch a game. here at Mike Anderson's, the long-time Baton Rouge staple, Wesley at Nicholson. All right, first class. I'm putting last night's game and some of the aspects of it in first class. I thought about this. A couple things happened in this game that would ordinarily make a person maybe not enjoy a game. Number one, if you bet on a game and you lose, okay, chances are you probably didn't enjoy the game. You can find something to complain about. If you enjoy a game that you bet on and you still lost, okay, I'm in that category today. I got to tell you, that's pretty rare. If I have mishandicapped something or I've missed a key portion of it, or if I felt like one call just absolutely screwed me, I won't enjoy the game. So if I bet on a game and lose, my chances of enjoying it go down dramatically. I bet on the game. I thought my pick was sound. I thought the Florida, pick was just as sound. I thought it was a complete toss-up, and I thought Houston would just get them at the end. Turned out it went the other way. I can live with that. I don't feel like I made a big mistake in the handicap of the game. I don't think that anybody that picked Florida was out of line. I thought the game went about like it was supposed to at the end. Was supposed to be a toss-up game in the last 4 minutes. It was a toss-up game in the last 4 minutes. Florida scored 2 more points. I can live with that. The second thing is that sometimes it's difficult to enjoy a game that is defense-oriented. This game was defense-oriented, and I enjoyed it anyway. Not the games like you remember the Duke Butler the UConn Butler national championship game. All right,
I don't.
It was the one after Gordon Hayward missed the half-court shot, okay? That game was compelling. That game was drama-filled. The one the next year when UConn played Butler was an absolute debacle, okay? I mean, it was like they had welded a lid to the basket. It was about the ugliest thing. And it wasn't because they were playing great defense. It was that nobody could make a shot. It was one of the worst national championship games ever. This wasn't that. This was a physical brand of basketball. This was some high-level offensive guys that were doing what they could, but, man, the defense was just a little bit too good. And maybe my favorite part of last night's game, and, again, this resulted in us having a losing pick, but I'm gonna point it out anyway in the interest of fairness. The best offensive player on the court last night won the game with a defensive play. I think that's pretty cool. For all we talked about Walter Clayton, all the big shots he hit, and he hit some big ones in this game. Took a while. But he hit a couple of big shots in the last 4 minutes. He makes a defensive play. I thought that was pretty cool. I thought that everything building up to the game. I love seeing Hakeem Olajuwon at courtside. I saw him on the pregame. I was in junior high when that game between Houston and NC State was played. I remember watching it, on an old TV, just kind of by myself. Not grainy, but the high definition obviously wasn't there. I mean,
a little pixelated.
It was, just a little bit. But I remember that game. So those great Houston teams. I enjoyed really last night's the whole thing about it. I thought was good. We come out of these things, sometimes we complain about a call, or we complain about the announcers. I liked last night's game. So
it was Iron Eagles' first week.
That's right.
First time March Madness. I thought he did a good job.
He was fine. Grant Hill is really good.
Yeah.
Raftery's an institution. Yeah, so I'm fine with all of that. I do have one problem with the officiating I'll get to in a second, but it's not like one call cost a game. I hate it when we have to come back and talk about one call, all right? This is one of my pet peeves in sports. We play everything but the last 5 seconds, and then we got to spend, a week discussing what happened on the very last call of the game. That wasn't the case here. There was a problem with the officiating, but I don't think it it didn't deter my enjoyment for the game to the point where I'm like, man, this is just dominated. We'll get to that in a second. Second class, I'm going to go back to the LSU men. I'm going to say this one time. Jimmy would roll his eyes in disgust if he were here. But I've watched over the last 3 seasons abysmal LSU basketball. There's nothing that can be done about that. It's over. I wish it hadn't happened. I wish it had been better, but there's nothing I can do about it, so I'm going to try very hard, Max, over the next, 8 months, okay, or 7 months until they're playing basketball again. I can beat that poor dead equine into the ground, but it's not going to do any good, okay? So it happened. I think that, and should they have made a move, we can debate that till the end of time. We've done that. Not going to get us anywhere good. Is next year going to be good? I don't know. I know that they've taken moves to be good. And if they get into next year and they make the turn at 1-8 or 2-7 in the SEC, well, then we'll know. That'll be that, and we'll start the whole chapter over again when the season's over. We know that. But in the meantime, can I just be a touch optimistic?
Please.
I mean, just a little bit. I understand. I gave the recruiting rankings in the first time. It's like, well, wait a minute. They're 19th in the recruiting rankings. Well, that's okay. That's enough to field a competitive team. Well, they were 14th last year, and that didn't work. Okay. Well, they got transfer portal rankings. They're 12th in one of these things. How many of these different transfer portal rankings do you have?
I have two. I mean, if you really look at
All right.
So On3 incorporates transfers in, transfers out, which is important.
And
now
they think LSU's lost more than they've gained.
Yes, they have them minus.
If that's
64.
the case, the coach will be fired before Valentine's Day. I mean, he really will. Okay, if what they got coming, if they're right, if what they got coming in is worse than what they got going out was 3-15 in the league. Okay,
so more
what
coming in, I think.
I don't know. Maybe they spent enough money in the transfer portal last year that they thought they were competitive. They weren't. They've upped that. Is it good enough? I don't know. But can I at least point to some of these guys that have similar resumes to some of the other guys that have done well and hope before I'm not going to sit here and defend them next year if they put together a non-conference schedule that looks like Catholic High should be playing it, which they've done, okay? And if they come out of the gate, like I said, 1-7 or 2-8 in the conference, I'm not going to defend them to the death. But for the moment, they made some staff changes. They made some moves. They're at least paying attention. Now, can I at least be optimistic for 1 second?
And maybe Yasir Roseman, who comes from Indiana, associate head coach, apparently supposed to be a good recruiter. So maybe he can help you, last ditch kind of improve this roster.
I saw where that was written. I got to be honest with you, that doesn't mean anything to me right this second, and here's why. He's never going to get a chance to recruit if they don't do well next year. This year's recruiting class is done. The transfer portal class is almost done. We won't see the benefits of his recruiting unless McMahon survives another year.
I'm talking about maybe a portal ad or two that he can, last minute kind of get.
Hey, if he pulls a guy, then great. All right. But for the moment, the staff changes, I'm more concerned in their ability to affect the game from the bench than affect the game off the court. That hay's in the barn. Most of now again, if he pulls one late, great. But the recruiting aspect of it, that part's kind of done. You're not going to see the fruits of that labor unless McMahon survives at least one more year. So I'd like to be, the league won't be quite as good next year. For the moment, I'm going to say, hey, you know what? I'm going to wipe the slate clean because I can't go back and change the past. I can't fire the guy. None of that. So for the moment, let me think good thoughts. I've thought enough bad thoughts. I'm tired of thinking bad thoughts. And if they open up and they're no good or whatever, you come back and tell me you're an idiot. I'll probably beat you to it. Okay, if they come out of the gate like 1-6 or something like that, or 1-7, I'll say, you know what? I was an idiot. I drank the Kool-Aid. I'm sorry, but for the moment, I'm just going to hope. Hope's not a bad thing, right?
No, it's not. I want to be optimistic too, Charlie. I worry about it being insanity, but I hope so.
Okay.
I hope so.
Now, realistically, what are you telling me when these rosters? Probably LSU will be picked somewhere between 13th and 16th. I had to guess next year.
Oh, preseason poll?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not going to give him any credit. He's shown no reason, and they haven't brought in the type of transfer that is going to, it's not like Hunter Dickinson's coming in here, okay, that everybody knows about. So they're going to be picked
15th.
Yeah, somewhere between 13th and 16th is where they'll be picked. So no, that's fine too. I'm not I wouldn't pick them any higher than that. Why would I? But for the moment, I'm going to hope.
Second chance. Good
Yeah.
with a chance to be great. Come on, Tigers.
Good with a chance to be 12th. Okay, I mean, improve somewhat. The no class kind of foreshadowed this. Again, if you're going to call a game one way, that's fine. If you're going to call a game where you're going to allow physical play, I have no problem with that. If you're going to call a game where I'd rather you didn't, but if you're going to call a game where pretty much everything's a foul and you're going to call it very, very close to the vest, at least I can live with that. But when you call it one way in the first half and one way in the second half, I'm sorry, that's a problem. Max, do you think that if they had called the game in the second half the way they called it in the first half, that Houston would have won? Oof. I do. Okay, that's just me.
I agree.
I can't point to any one call.
I don't want to point to the officials and say that's why Houston lost.
I
agree.
I don't either.
Houston got a very favorable whistle from their perspective in the first half, in that it was a physical game. That helps them. So, yes, sure, if it was called that way. But if Florida's first half was called the same, that would have benefited Florida. So,
it's usually one or two calls you come down when you blame the officials. So I don't like it when the whole – and really it wasn't – like we were talking about with Andy, it wasn't even really in the first couple of minutes of the second half. It's not like they went in and made a decision, hey, we're going to call it closer in the second half. It was almost like, hey, I've got a lot of fouls built up. We can call all these fouls now and not worry about fouling somebody out.
And unfortunately,
I hope that wasn't going through those officials' minds.
Tugler got in foul trouble, and that hurts them significantly.
Sure.
He's a great defensive player.
Sure. That game between Houston and NC State, I'm going to reference that one again because all that anybody talks about now is Wittenberg's shot that Lorenzo Charles gets the air ball, dunks it. Olajuwon doesn't defend it because he doesn't want to be called for goaltending, and NC State wins it. And Valvano's running around the court looking for somebody to hug, and it's a great scene. But in the first half, Clyde Drexler had 4 fouls. Clyde Drexler was the second best player for Houston. Might have even been the best player for Houston for a lot of that season. Olajuwon, is an all-timer, but Drexler is one of the, college basketball. Clyde Drexler is among the greatest college and pro basketball players that's ever laced up some sneakers. He had 4 fouls in the first half. Guy Lewis left him in the game with 3 fouls and instructions to be careful on defense. Drexler's 4th foul was a charge in the open floor. Terry Gannon tells the story great, who's a golf announcer now.
Does some Olympic stuff.
Yeah. Terry Gannon, who's about probably 4 or 5 inches shorter than Drexler and is in not the same universe athletically as Drexler. And Gannon will tell you that, too. Is backing up. Drexler's in the open floor. Here comes 5 slamma jamma. Gannon plants his feet. Drexler runs over him. 4th foul. It was a big deal in that game. Anybody now, you get a 3rd foul, you're going to the bench. A lot of coaches will say after 2 fouls, you're going to the bench for the rest of the first half. That instance gets brought up in those situations. It shaped coaching philosophies. You're going to be on the floor with 3 fouls? Back then, if you trusted your guy, you might do that. Now you don't ever see any significant players like that on the floor with 3 fouls.
And some have exclusive rules. 2 and you're out. 2 and you're out for
Johnny
the whole
Jones
first
was
half.
like
Johnny
that.
Jones,
two fouls and you go to the bench. I'm more of a trust my guy type of deal. If I trust my guy, I can leave him in. If he's a freshman or he's a little bit careless defensively, I don't trust my guy. Lewis trusted Drexler, and Drexler went up, and if he'd had maybe one more step, he might have been able to jump over Gannon completely because he was that good of an athlete. Anyway, kind of got off on a tangent there about that old game. First class, second class, no class, brought to you by Supreme Rice and SupremeRice.com. Since the 1930s down in southwest Louisiana, Supreme Rice, Louisiana farmers grow and mill and process in Supreme Rice. You pick it up. In fact, if you're watching us on YouTube, our Supreme Rice guy brought us a prop today, a prop that I'm going to take home and cook, the jasmine rice, which is a favorite over at our house, but you can try the new parboiled rice. That is Jimmy's particular favorite, the brown, the long grain as well. Pick it up wherever you buy rice, be it at your Rouse's, at your Walmarts, all of your AG food stores, and support our Louisiana farmers as well as future generations of Louisiana farmers through the Climate Smart program, which promotes reducing methane emissions and water conservation. Great for tailgating. You're making jambalayas. You're making etouffees. If you're out for LSU baseball, long homestand after this weekend coming up. They'll be home for most of the next month. Make it with Supreme Rice. And for more information and great recipes, go to the website at supremerice.com. Take a break here live at Mike Anderson's Live at Lunch, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Windows, doors, siding, and shutters. Relief Windows has it all for you. Your homeowners association require wood windows. We're proud to be the premier gelled wood windows company at Relief Windows. These wooden windows combine the beauty of real wood with high-tech energy efficiency features for all climate zones, specially built for extreme weather conditions here in South Louisiana. Built using RLS wood, gelled windows come with a 20-year general warranty and a lifetime limited warranty against rot and termites, providing years of beauty and minimal maintenance. Sure wish I'd known about these gel windows from Relief Windows at the original construction of my home. Relief Windows and reliefwindows.com.
Live at Lunch with Ott and Yanni from Mike Anderson Seafood on Lee Drive on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Today's show also brought to you by Coastal Capital Advisors. Get into retirement situations. Listen, it's a unique situation. So let Coastal Capital Advisors tailor a plan for your family's needs, no matter what your age or your financial situation. And in what is a pretty volatile market here of late, they will talk to you. They will talk about what's going on. They'll explain it to you. I know because that's what they had a conversation with me just recently. They're going to work with you. They're going to build a lifetime relationship. That's what they've done for me. Philip Fontenot and his staff do a fantastic job. So no matter what's going on in the market, they're going to be able to help you out, tailor-make programs for you. Going to be able to sometimes calm you down a little bit and talk about what the next moves are. 337-981-1376. Online, coastalcapitaladv.com. Advisory services provided by New Age Advisors, member FINRA, SIPC. I saw all of these promos last night during the game last night. They're telling me more Masters coverage than ever. Is that true?
It's sort of true. They don't like to go too early on Saturdays and Sundays. They definitely don't like to go early on Thursdays and Fridays. There will be 2 hours on Paramount Plus from 11 to 1 Central, I believe, on Saturday and Sunday, which is the extended hours that they're advertising. We will have to wait until 2 o'clock, both Thursday, Friday, to get the ESPN coverage, which is a little frustrating, but it happens every year, and the Masters, they control this. They do this all the time. So if you want to watch any of the feature groups, any of the action early in the morning, you can watch the featured holes.
The app has gotten a lot better.
The app is good. The app is great. They go all in like Augusta does, and if you don't have the app
early on, look, believe me, they got overloaded those first few years with the app, but now
the app is better traditionally and online. I always make a point if I'm working, I'll have a little monitor that has it on. So you got to kind of watch it online if you're watching early coverage, but. Yeah, I guess it's extended, but Paramount Plus, you got to have that Saturday, Sunday.
All right, we'll figure out what we're going to do for that. The Masters, they exasperate me, but I'm also thankful for some of the things. For instance, this is as limited uninterrupted broadcast as there is in sports. Okay, there are fewer breaks than any other live sporting event, period. I mean, it's not even close. And when they were threatened with protests years ago, I think it was 2 years, might have even been 3, that we watched the Masters without a commercial the entire time because they were going to amend their policies, even if maybe some of them should have been amended, but they weren't going to do that. So they took the commercials out altogether. But I can't for the life of me in 2025, understand why they would not want to put all 18 holes of the one golf tournament that everybody wants to watch every year on TV from hole 1 to hole 18. I mean, literally, what time do Jack and Gary Player and Tom Watson do the ceremonial?
I think they go off at 7 Central, yeah.
Okay. You could televise that, and I think they do. And whoever's teeing off first, I mean, whoever's the number one, well, you got the tee times, you can tell me. From that until the last ball goes in 18, you could televise the whole thing.
I guess it's at 7:30. They're starting off
whatever
at,
time. They could do it at 5:30 in the morning. We get up to watch the British Open, don't we?
6:30 is the feature group Central Time, because the first group goes off at 6:40.
The one time you could have an extended audience for literally 18 holes of everybody. Okay, watch the whole thing. And they won't do it.
It would be great. I mean, like I said, with the feature group, you can actually watch basically every shot. If you're following a specific player, you can watch them through the app. That's the one thing. Like, they basically televise every single shot that's hit. You can create your own little show if you favorite certain golfers. Maybe you love Jordan Spieth, you love Rory McIlroy. You can favorite them, and it'll give you a exclusive feed that just has those golfers in it. So there are ways around it, but yeah, you kind of got to go out your way, and that's just the way Augusta's done it. There was a time where they only showed the back nine on Sunday. It's just what they've done. I don't know.
It was. I think I might have been in college before I saw what the front nine at Augusta looked like, because they never put it on TV until the back nine. So you're right, they're getting better. I tried to get Buzzy Heidel to FaceTime me from where he's a marshal over there, but he's like, nah, that's against the rules. Tee times are out. Anything catch your attention?
Yeah, you always kind of would used to look at where Tiger's group is, and especially the group in front of them, because that could always be mayhem. But obviously Tiger not playing this time, so you're just kind of looking for any exclusive, any big-time ones, and then, maybe if you're avoiding, like, a really bad player, someone out in form, because you never really want to have someone in your group who's kind of, mucking it up, shooting 8 over par. But Scotty Scheffler's going to go off at 9:15 with Justin Thomas and an amateur, Jose Luis Ballester. Jordan Spieth goes off right after him with Tom Kim and Tyrrell Hatton. If I was following a group at the Masters, I would want to see Scheffler right ahead of him, but Spieth and Hatton, as emotional as they are, and Tom Kim's a little bit of a slow player, but that would be a very interesting group, an emotional group there at 9:26.
You said Spieth talks to himself, and Hatton just kind of cusses under.
Oh,
his
he
breath.
rants. He's been caught on hot mics saying the Masters, Augusta National's terrible, and he doesn't.
And they let him back in?
Oh yeah. I mean, they let Angel Cabrera in the field this year, so that's another story.
Get a decent price on him for best senior.
Yeah, Phil's the heavy favorite there. Obviously, he won the Champions Tour event last week on Angel Cabrera after a extended stay in the Slammer. But we'll also see. Let's see. Rory, I think, gets a pretty good pairing, comfortable pairing for him. He goes off in the afternoon. They like to backload a lot of their premium times to the end of the morning wave and the end of. There's no real wave. They go in order, but to where Thursday and Friday, when you get the TV coverage, the last few best groups are coming down the stretch. So you wait till the very end to watch the coverage. But Rory's in the fourth to last group on Thursday, paired with Ludwig Åberg and Akshay Bhatia. Åberg, a very fast player. Rory, typically among the faster players as well, so comfortable in that he won't be waiting forever. They'll be waiting in the groups in front, I'm sure, but there won't be slowed down by anyone in his group. So Rory, a trendy pick. I get it. He's in great form. Jimmy will remind you, best form he's ever had probably since 2019 coming into the Masters. But ultimately, he hadn't won a major in over 10 years and has never won here at Augusta.
Angel Cabrera could be the greatest golf hustler in the world. You realize that? Okay. I haven't seen him recently, but is he still fairly overweight?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
This guy, who is in his 50s, can walk out of jail, overweight, in his 50s, say, hold my cigarette. Literally. I've seen him do this at the mat. Hold my cigarette. And beat 99.9% of the people in the world. Anybody who's not a professional has got no chance to beat this guy. Okay, and he looks like somebody who just walked out of a auto detailing shop and wandered his way onto the golf course. He could hustle, and nobody really knows what he looks like anymore because he hasn't been on the tour in a while. He could hustle the crap out of everybody.
Scraggly gray beard, 55 years old, a little bit overweight, as you mentioned, but won a Masters, almost won 2 Masters, actually, but one back in 2009.
His kid was there, literally, hold my cigarette while I play 16. This guy...
2 majors to his name. He was.
Of course, I guess he's been in enough trouble.
Yeah,
right?
he was in prison for, I believe, just over 3 years.
This guy could walk in and hustle any golf pro. Well, the golf pros probably know who he is, but I'll tell you, any golf course in the world, and beat 99% of him with his cigarette, with his cocktail, however overweight he is, however old he is, and the guy can still play.
Some not great stuff, by the way. I don't want to gloss over that. He was in prison for some.
No, he was in prison for some really serious, serious charges.
So.
But and how long was he in jail? 2 years?
I believe around 3, just over 3 maybe.
Unless there's a chipping green somewhere. I mean, you 3 years off the course, you walk back out there and you won this event.
Doubt an Argentinian prison would have a little chipping green, but maybe he got special treatment. Who knows?
Minimum security prisons in Argentina, I'm sure. I can imagine he got to practice very much. We're brought to you by the Thibodaux Store, 900 St. Patrick Highway in Thibodaux. Springtime is here. You're getting the yard in shape, the garden in shape, the flower beds in shape. Let them do it. Let them help you out. On the website, doitbest.com/Thibodaux Store. All of your garden tools, all of your hoses, your wheelbarrows, your wagons, your potting soils, your seeders, all of them available on the website right now, and some of them at some really nice discounts. Once you get the yard in shape, get the grill going. Huge selection of grills that you can get there. It includes the Big Green Egg cookers and custom Cajun cookware that they can ship to you right to your door. It's a huge, huge section. Took me a while to get Jimmy out of there when we visited just a couple of weeks ago at the Thibodaux Store. And the Pierre Part Store, which I know you're very familiar with.
Love the Pierre Part Store, from crab traps to key lime pies. They got about everything there.
Crab traps to key lime pie. Now, how did that slug line escape me? That's pretty good.
I don't know. They got everything there at the Pierre Part Store.
You're right. They've been in business for over 113 years. So check them out in Pierre Part and the Thibodaux Store, 900 St. Patrick Highway. And online, it's doitbest.com/Thibodaux Store.
I got a tease for you, Charlie.
Yeah.
Big news in the NBA.
What's that?
Big news in the NBA.
Big news in the NBA, and Randy McKay with us from San Antonio when we come back here live at lunch from Mike Anderson's 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Uh-oh, they let the big dog out.
Boom! Out of nowhere.
It's time for the big dog, Randy McKay, with his best picks.
All right, before we bring Randy in, Denver Nuggets have fired Mike Malone, and that's got to be considered a surprise. They were in 4th place in the Western Conference, 47-32. They won the NBA title in 2023. They lost in the conference semis last year. He's been to the semis 3 times, the conference finals once, and won an NBA title. But the Nuggets have fired him here about a week and a half before the playoffs start. Let's bring in Randy McKay, who's still in San Antonio, was there for the Final Four. Randy, good afternoon. How are you?
And, that's some bizarre news about Malone. I thought he was one of the better NBA coaches, actually. So who knows what's going on there in Denver. I guess I'll find out a little bit more when I get back, see what the local media is saying about it. But we'll find out more about it.
You spend a decent amount of time in that area. This hit me from out of left field, but I don't follow the Nuggets day in, day out. Was there any rumblings that you had heard that, I understand they're in 4th place, a game and a half out of 3rd. So we've just got a couple of games left in the regular season. This seems like bizarre timing. And, we were talking during the break, Randy, a lot of times these things are star-driven. Nikola Jokic doesn't seem like the kind of guy that would be on a coach firing spree, that he would go in there and demand that Malone be run out. Maybe I'm wrong, but, what do you think happened?
Yeah, I have no idea. It must be upper management because I don't think Joker's that type of guy, and neither is none of their other players, Murray or Porter Jr., or any of those guys, Gordon. So, yeah, I don't I just got my left field. I didn't hear anything about it in the casinos before when I was there. I know they're disappointed at a few of their bad losses lately, but yeah, like I said, I thought he was one of the better coaches in the NBA.
And he won't be out of work long. Anybody? If wishing made it so, my goodness. I mean, that'd be too much to hope for. But yes, that would be that would be a fantastic move in the right direction. Randy, you were in San Antonio for the Final Four. We had three really competitive, interesting games, and of course, the Gators win it last night. Your thoughts on Florida trailing for most of the night, but getting the game when it counted?
Yeah, great game, great atmosphere down here too, especially with Houston being in the finals. Seemed like their fans traveled over, and it was pretty. Well, I see a red down there when I was down there earlier, and yeah, just another one of those Florida performances we've seen in the tournament this year, where they get behind early in the first half, and we had the first half under, and that came in nicely. But yeah, just like the other games, they get down against Texas Tech, they get down. A little bit in that first game too, and then they just come back and got down pretty big against Auburn, pretty big against Houston. Just came back, and surprisingly against this Houston team that they could generate enough, but it was on their defensive end that they really stopped Houston that caused the problem there for the Cougars down the stretch.
For Kelvin Sampson to put together a defensive game plan and stymie Walter Clayton for so much of this game, Sharp did such a great job on him. But on the offensive side, they bogged down, and in the last 8 minutes of the game, it was tough sledding for both teams. But Houston doesn't even get a shot up in the last four possessions, the last 85 seconds of the game. What did you think of how the last few possessions unfolded?
Yeah, just a cosmic problem that they've had a little bit offensively. That what propelled them against Duke, they just couldn't seem like they could generate, and we didn't see that out of Houston all year. Panic down the stretch, but. Got to give hats off to Florida and their defensive effort there. I mean, they just kind of stymied them there at the end, and unfortunately that caused a comeback and caused Florida to have the victory.
Randy, what about the national semifinal between Houston and Duke, and the way the last 40 seconds there unfolded? And what happened with Duke and how Houston was able to pull that one out? Your thoughts about how Shia handled it down the stretch and how Sampson handled it in the last minute?
Yeah, you could just kind of tell that this Duke team was a young team, not really, used to being in this kind of spot. They'd been ahead pretty much all tournament and all year in a lot of games. They didn't have enough close games to really practice some of that. You can practice it, but can you simulate that kind of pressure that Houston can put on you? And that's what happened to them. And they got a couple calls probably not go their way. A little ticky tack on that one there that led to the two free throws against Cooper Flagg. So that was a crazy ending as well. But that's what happens in these tournaments. And we saw three good games, and so it turned out to be here, and it was a very good Final Four.
All right, let's. I know you're going to be turning your attention towards the NFL draft here. We're 2 weeks and 2 days away from it. Here locally, a little bit of buzz about Shedeur Sanders. There's been some mocks that have Sanders slipping past the Giants, and if he gets past the Giants and nobody trades up, there's a good chance he'll be there for New Orleans. Mel Kiper's got him going to New Orleans in his latest mock draft. Your thoughts about Shedeur Sanders, who I think is going to be one of those. It's going to be one of those guys that kind of sparks something that could really shake up the first round. There's a big difference between him going number 3 to the Giants and him going later in the top 10 as to how the rest of the top 10 unfolds. What do you think right now about where Shedeur might end up?
Yeah, I think that would be very good for the Saints if he would fall down to them. He's proven that he can take a hit, take a licking, and keep on ticking. He took a lot of hits with that bad offensive line. Not so much this last year, but the year before. I think he was a top guy getting hit, seemed like every play, and top quarterback as far as taking hits like that. So this guy's tough. I think he makes the right decisions. And, maybe he isn't the most talented guy, but I think he can get enough done for you that I think he might be an okay pro. So that might be an all right deal for the Saints.
What's your philosophy on taking NFL draft over-unders on players? I mean, 2 weeks out, 1 week out. These things, they're pretty accurate when the pick's actually going up there, but, boy, they can change in a hurry. We see this with the NBA draft, and this is still – look, we've been doing this for a few years now, but it's still not like we've got 20 years of data with the sports books in this. What's your philosophy on when to get down on some of these over-unders in the draft?
You got to make sure you're on top of things. You make sure you're on top of these books when they first put them out. There isn't a whole lot of them out right now. It's kind of a vague deal so far, but if you can get ahead of some of these over-under markets on some of these guys before they slip, I mean, you can have a chance to get some good middles in. And I've done that before in the past. It's an information-based bet, so you can get ahead of the information. You're going to be pretty well set. And I'm looking at one guy. Of course, you guys haven't heard of him. He's from North Dakota State, the big guard here, Gary Zabel.
Zabel, yeah.
I've been hearing a lot of good things about him, and I'm waiting kind of for his number to come out. It's going to kind of be interesting because I think he's going to be a first rounder.
Yeah, I do too. His versatility is really, really attractive to teams, and I'm just going to take a guess here. We've got some over-unders, or we got some odds on the top 5 picks, but he's not up there. Randy, I'm going to say 24. Somewhere 20, maybe 24 and a half is his over-under. What are you're saying first round? Where would you when we get a number on him? Where would you pick him?
That's about what I would have made, about right around 24, 25. So we'll wait and see what the sports book put out on that, and if we'll adjust and see what happens. But there'll be some sports books that'll put out numbers. I know that big penny that plays for the Saints, I remember I had him under, and that came in pretty easily when he was drafted by the Saints where he was. So he was another one I looked at, and that hasn't been a bad pick for the Saints, even though they're a little down on him.
The last thing is right now there's been a shift in the second and third picks. Travis Hunter, now the favorite to be the number 2 pick, and Abdul Carter, the favorite to be the number 3 pick. I think as recently as a few days ago that was reversed.
Completely flipped, yep.
Yeah, Max does a lot of shows with the guys up in Cleveland. They've got the number 2 pick. Any thoughts there about Hunter versus Carter?
Yeah, I would think that's what the Cleveland guys would want, probably. You get either one is a good pick, but you get the more exciting guy that can play both ways. Cleveland needs Cleveland needs a lot of players, but I think he'll probably be the better fit for them. But it'd be interesting to see their opinion on that. But I think if I had to choose, I'd take Travis Hunter.
I take Travis Hunter first, but that's just me. And Max, the word out of Cleveland is that they would use him primarily as a wide receiver and just a little bit on defense, not the other way around.
Yeah, they're one of the rare teams. That's who GM Andrew Berry sees him as a wide receiver first, and that's why maybe some of this news came after the Colorado Pro Day, where we saw Travis Hunter do a lot of work at receiver, didn't really play a corner in that showcase.
Cleveland find a quarterback?
Right now, it's Kenny Pickett.
Only been 30 years.
Let's say Shedeur Sanders, who, by the way, our friends at the Queen at DraftKings have over 8.5 for Shedeur Sanders now at minus 200. So they do see him falling to the Saints in some capacity.
Over meaning after.
Correct.
Yeah,
So getting to 9 at the Saints. If the Saints don't pick him, where would he fall? And I wonder if you're Cleveland, you got the 33rd pick. You got the first pick in the second round. Do you even consider trading up into the first round, and maybe you pair Hunter, who you see as a wide receiver, with Sanders, his quarterback, which we see a lot more of these college pairings now in the NFL?
Those quarterbacks, once you get past one team, sometimes the free fall is significant. We saw that with, you want to go back to Aaron Rodgers.
Will Levis.
Who could have gone? Aaron Rodgers could have went with the number one pick, but once he didn't, he fell all the way into the 20s. We saw that with Brady Quinn. Will Levis, he fell all the way out of the first round entirely. Randy, we always appreciate the time, big dog. Have a safe trip, safe travels back, and we'll talk to you next week when Jimmy gets back from France.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Have a good weekend, and good luck, everybody out there.
Thanks a lot. Randy McKay, professional sports handicapper. We'll take a break, come back, and wrap things up here. Mike Anderson, Seafood Wesley at Nicholson, live at lunch, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Nation's leading scorer in women's college basketball last season, Tanaya Latson from Florida State, she's been in the portal. She has announced her plans for college. Well, for her next college, I should say. She's going to South Carolina. That's really not where I wanted her to go. LSU was in there on Latson, and with Florida State having come here, there was some thought that, she saw the building, the place was lit, they've been successful. Maybe she would end up in Baton Rouge. She is not. She is going to South Carolina. Max, how many colleges play women's basketball?
Oof.
For the men, it's like 350, right?
Yeah, 356, I believe.
All right, whatever the number is, South Carolina would have been last as far as places that I wanted to see her go.
Yeah, they have 362.
362. So if I'd have ranked the schools from 1 to 362 that I wanted to see Latson go to, I would have picked LSU number 1 and South Carolina number 362, and that's where she that's where she ended up.
A little more news, by the way, on the Malone thing. They've also fired their general manager Calvin Booth, so it's a full clean house they're doing there with the Nuggets, who, by the way, have the 6th choice favorites to win the NBA title. They're 18-1. They lost 4 in a row. The Malone thing is surprising to me. The general manager, look, they don't have much depth. That's the criticism of them the last 2 years. But, yeah, this is a full clearinghouse, and Shams Charania reporting, according to ESPN Research, this is tied for the latest coaching change in NBA history, matching Hubie Brown in the 80-81 season.
That's my thing. If you think that the general manager and the coach have underachieved, and you've got this generational talent in Joker, that's fine. But you got 5 games left in the regular season. You've got a home court in the first. Do you really think that an interim coach is going to do better than Malone would this deep into it?
They've got 3 left. 3 games left.
I mean, come on, man. Tomorrow with Los Reyes for Max and Jordan, I'm Charles Hanniger saying thank you and good afternoon. Stay tuned for Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.